through the church, it has been promulgated down through time that Adam and Eve, and therefore our original parents, were white. And all of our art has depicted them as white. All of the so-called Renaissance art, all the European art, all of the Bible bookstore pictures that you see of Jesus, the apostles, Moses, Abraham, dogs, fleas, and cats, everybody is white. And it is really an untruth. It has not been correctly presented to the world.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my space. This is Evans Rayola. So guys, as you all know, in the previous days in my postings, I have been loving the works of Pastor Fred Price, the late Pastor Fred Price. He did a really nice work in his series of racism and religion. And in a specific topic discussing about the color of Adam and Eve and other Bible figures, I found it very, very interesting, and I thought that I should share it with you. So if you did not know, Pastor Fred Price discussed of the race and ethnicity of biblical figures, including Adam and Eve. In some of his teachings, he often emphasized that traditional depictions of these figures as white are culturally biased and not necessarily rooted in biblical and historical accuracy. In his teachings, Pastor Price pointed out that Adam and Eve, being the first humans, were likely to be of a darker tone, considering the geographical location where humanity is believed to have originated, Africa or the Middle East. He highlighted that the Bible does not specify the skin color of Adam and Eve, and that this has been a topic of cultural interpretation rather than doctrinal importance. Fred Price's broader message often focused on the inclusivity of all races in God's plan and the importance of recognizing the cultural and ethnic diversity represented in the Bible. So guys, I want us to watch this video. Then we will stop it after it's done, then react to it. Then I'll give you guys my thought about the same. Let's watch this
section on race. And we are asking the question and seeking an answer to: where do we come from? How did we get here? Why is there such a rainbow of coloring among humans? And how did it all begin? There are various ideas about it, and the racist establishment of this society, and particularly in the beginning of our nation, through the church, it has been promulgated down through time that Adam and Eve, and therefore our original parents, were white. And all of our art has depicted them as white. All of the so-called Renaissance art, all the European art, all of the Bible bookstore pictures that you see of Jesus, the apostles, Moses, Abraham, dogs, fleas, and cats, everybody is white. And it is really an untruth. It has not been correctly presented to the world. I'm not interested, as I've said before, in trying to find everybody to be black. I've gone in my research, I've found some that everybody's black. I mean, everything is black. Even the sky is black, ocean's black, the water's black, everything, God is black, angels are black, everything is black. Well, to me, that's going from one extreme to the other. All I want to do is find out what's the real story, and the Bible tells us, but we've got to get past all of our preconceived ideas and prejudices to get to it. Last time we were dealing with a little basic biology to try to give some scientific validation to some things that we've already found out from the standpoint of the Word of God. I said, and I think that our lesson today will prove it, that Adam and Eve, there is no way in this lifetime that Adam and Eve could have been white. It is a biological and scientific impossibility, unless there are two different creations. And believe it or not, I hope to get to it. I'm going to share some information with you today that implies that there is two different separate creations. That the first creation was all white, and the other creation is all the rest of us mongrels. Notice I included me in it. I said us mongrels. Okay, so don't get, all right, hostile with me. Now, I want to go back and pick up where I left off, and so I've got to do a little bit of review. Now, I'm giving you validatable information, information that you can go check up for yourself, because too long preachers have been telling the sheep and the lamb certain things and giving them no basis in proof where they could go check it out. But I have done a lot of research, so I want to give you the benefit of my research so you can go check it out. Don't accept it because I said it. Don't accept it because it sounds good. Don't accept it because it sounds bad. Don't accept it because it sounds right. Don't accept it because it sounds wrong. Accept it because it's validatable and it squares up with the scripture. Now, in the Answers book, 1990, by Ken Ham, Andrew Snelling, and Carl Whelan. And I apologize in the very beginning for any other names that I may use in this discourse today that I may not pronounce correctly. I'm pronouncing it to the best of my limited ability. So there's no intent in mispronouncing anyone's name. And a lot of times things are subject to somebody's interpretation anyway. I know some people that are named Susan, and some people call the same name Suzanne. And they put a little thing on the top of it there, and it's all spelled the same way. So, anyway. So, the Answers book, 1990, by Ken Ham, Andrew Snelling, and Carl Whelan. Master Books, P.O. Box 1606, El Cajon, California, 92022. All three authors are creation scientists with degrees in biology, geology, and medicine, respectively. I want to quote from this book because I believe they deal with this question of skin color in a very simple way. Even if you have no background in science of any kind, you will be able to understand their simple presentation. On pages 133 and 134, and I quote, "It is easy to think that since different groups of people have yellow skin, red skin, black skin, white skin, and brown skin, there must be many different pigments or colorings. The fact is, however, that there is only one skin color, melanin. This is a brownish pigment which we all have in special cells in our skin. If we produce only a little melanin, it means that we will be European white. If our skin produces a great deal of melanin, we will be very deep black. And in between, of course, are all shades of brown," end of quote. The Answers book goes on to say, pages 135, 136, 137, 141, 142, 143, 146, and 147, and I quote because I want to put all of this together. "We also need to be aware that one is not born with a genetically fixed amount of melanin, but rather with a genetically fixed potential to produce a certain amount in response to sunlight. For example, if you are a Caucasian, you may have noticed that when your friends headed for the beach at the very beginning of summer, they may, if they spent all their time indoors during winter, have all been more or less the same pale white color. As the summer went on, however, some became much darker than others. In other words, they suntan, they tan, but you never see all white-skinned people tan to identically the same color of tan. There's differences in the tan because of that genetic fixing inside of them to determine how much melanin their skin will produce in response to sunlight. In very dark-skinned people, well, let me go back. As the summer went on, however, some became much darker than others. Even very dark-skinned races are not born with such a skin color. It takes exposure to sunlight to switch on the melanin factories in the skin. I gave an illustration last Sunday of my daughter when she was born, and most people can relate to this. Most black people or people of color can relate to this. Most of our babies that are born are never born the same color they become when they're 2, 3, or 4, 5 years old. They are born very light. In some cases, so light, some questions arise. On occasions, wondering, now wait a minute here, but after exposure to light, then the melanin factories in the skin are turned on, and whatever their genetic disposition is, they will begin to turn that color up to the level of their genetic structure. Okay? It takes exposure to sunlight to switch on the melanin factories in the skin. In very dark-skinned people, the areas such as the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet, which are very rarely exposed to sunlight, generally stay much lighter than the rest of the body. Let's look at a few observations which can help us to explain how many different skin colors can arise in a short time. Because, see, we have to account for all these different shades of coloring in the world. Now, either God made them or they came from somewhere else. And if they came from somewhere else, then that means there's another God or another creator or something. And there are some that claim that that people came from a different place. Everybody came from the same source. And we'll find this out as we go along. Whenever we use such words as different colors, we are, strictly speaking, referring to different shades of the one color. If a person from a very dark race marries someone from a very white race, their offspring, called mulattoes, are mid-brown. It has long been known that if people of mulatto descent marry, their offspring may be virtually any color, ranging from very black to very white. And I gave you the other illustration about my wife's family. They had, the mother was almost white as a white person. And the father was very, very dark. They had 13 kids. 11 of those kids were all basically mid-brown, like my wife, and one was almost white and one was almost black. All came from the very same mother and father. So we see this, and many families can relate the same experience. Now, understanding this gives us the clues we need for our overall question. So we must first look in a simple way at some of the basic facts of heredity. Each of us carries in our body information which describes us in the way a blueprint describes a finished building. It determines not only that we will be human beings rather than cabbages or crocodiles, but it also whether we will have, that don't sound right. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me say it again. It determines not only that we will be human beings rather than cabbages or crocodiles, but also whether we will have blue eyes, short nose, long legs, etc. When a male sperm fertilizes an egg, all the information that specifies how the person will be built, ignoring such superimposed factors as exercise and diet, is already present. The human blueprint is written in a code or language convention which is carried on a very long chemical called DNA. The word gene means a small part of that information which carries the instructions for only one feature. In the fertilized egg, where does all the information, its genes, come from? One half has come from the father, carried by the sperm, and the other half from the mother, carried in the egg. Genes come in matching pairs. Say matching pairs. We know that skin color is governed by at least 2, possibly more, sets of genes. Now, I want to pause for a moment and make an addendum here. Now, we're reading from scientists, not Christians per se. They are Christians, but not from the standpoint of ministers of the gospel or preachers preaching from a pulpit or theologians teaching in a seminary. We're talking about scientists, biologists, medicine, geologists that are giving us information scientifically. And on top of all of that, these 3 gentlemen that wrote this book and that are scientists are all white. So you know they're right. That was a joke. Don't take it personally. Don't get hostile, okay? Just wanted to release a little energy there. Now,
so family, we've heard from Pastor Fred Price. He's explained so well why he thinks that everyone was black. You know, he's put this whole topic into perspective. He says, when he started the conversation, that Adam and Eve have always been depicted as white, including many European arts. Most of these arts growing up had this picture of Adam and Eve depicted as white in the Garden of Eden. Most of them show Adam trying to cover himself in leaves, you know, then the time when God asked him why he was trying to cover his body, you know, he's many times depicted as a white man from those art from the European art gallo that they show people, you know. Then we talk about Eve. She's depicted the same way. We talk about Jesus. He's always been depicted as a white man, you know. We know the images. We've seen them even in the internet. We see them even in churches, you know, on the walls of churches. Jesus being put there and people thinking that indeed Jesus was a white man. Then Pastor Price says that Adam and Eve were not well depicted. That was a wrong depiction. And he proceeds to say that everything is black. Literally everything is black. He gives examples of the ocean waters. He gives example of the sky, you know, as crazy as it may sound, because we know the ocean waters are blue, you know. We know that the sky is blue-white or rather dark. Why does he say that everything is black? You know, he even mentioned including God, you know, and it's deeper. And then he proceeds and says that there is a lot to look into in terms of biology of the human skin. He says in 1990 there are these authors who are creation scientists with degrees in biology, geology, and medicine. And from this book we learn that there is only one skin color. You think about black and white. They say that there is only one skin color. The skin color is called melanin in this perspective. He says the melanin, we all know melanin is the how do I put it? Melanin produces rather the brown pigment, you know. It gives you that black shade. Huh? So he says, the authors of the book say that there's only one skin color, which is melanin. And they say if we produce little melanin, we may likely be like the European white. So that would mean if we produce more melanin, then ideally we must be too dark if we produce more melanin. If we produce melanin in a medium amount, you know, somewhere in between, that would mean that we will be somewhere brownish, or rather people of color, you know, people who have a range of melanin, not too much and not too small. Too small brings about the European white. Too many melanin pigments brings about somebody who looks like me. Then now we have the little melanin, which brings about the colored people. And they proceed to say that no fixed amount of melanin. Oh, they say there's nothing like a fixed amount of melanin. So no fixed amount of melanin, but with a genetic potential to produce a certain amount in response to sunlight. Nobody has a fixed melanin in their body, but they have the genetically fixed potential that produces a certain amount of response to sunlight. You know, there's that genetic potential that every human being has. That if you're exposed to a lot of sunlight, your body will slowly lose the lightness. He gives an example of black children, including her daughter. Many of us, when we are born, we were so light. We were very light, man. At some point, people argue people start arguing in their marriages, saying, yo, this is not my kid because I'm dark, you're dark. How is our kid this light? You know, sometimes we have those arguments in black families. When the kids are small, when the children are really, really small, many a times their color is really lighter than what they become in future. I really wish I had a photo of me immediately after birth. I could have attached it somewhere here. Right now I'm dark, but at the time I was so light. It works that way. Once you're exposed to the light slowly, then in return, the genetic figments, the genetically fixed potential of your melanin starts showing itself, you know, the more you're exposed to sunshine. We see some Europeans, we see white people who, once they're exposed to too much sunlight, they start being a little dark light, you know, they start developing this other color that you all know. When you look at a black man a white man living in Europe, then you compare to a white man living in Africa, you'll notice something different. It's because of their genetically fixed potential, which reacts to the amount of sunlight that is directed at them at any given point in time. You all know that Africa is relatively warmer compared to the West, or rather Europe. So the white folks who live in Africa, in a way, they start losing that whitish touch and start developing this other middle color, you know. And from the experiment, from the issue with biology, from these 3 authors who had a degree in biology, geology, and medicine, we all can tell that that human beings are only of one color, melanin. So he proceeds and says that this is a proof as to why many a times there are a lot of depictions, wrong depictions of the color of Adam and Eve and other Bible figures. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Kindly do consider subscribing to my channel for amazing black stories in Africa and in the diaspora. You also want to check the full video out at this YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below of the YouTube channel that I got the video from, so that you may be able to go and watch the full series, the full episode of the same. So guys, thank you so much. Kindly do consider subscribing to my channel for amazing black stories like I have mentioned, and I'll be so grateful. Comment down below, let me know what you think, guys. See you all in my next video. Goodbye for now, guys. See ya.